Sure. I think before touching upon Dalmia, I think let me just give a broad context of what the Indian cement industry is all about. So Indian cement industry is the second largest in the world, I think, after China. So total we have about 700 million ton capacity. Of course, we have a low capacity utilization over the years. I think it hovers around 65%. But still, if we see in India, the per capita consumption continues to be low. It is around 265 kg per person. And just to give a relative context, globally this average is about 500. And developing countries like Vietnam and Turkey, this figure is close to 1,000. And China, of course, is in the top at around 1,300. So we do have a long way to go. And also to give a context that in India, the construction sector is the second largest in terms of the employment generation potential of agriculture. So no Indian government, whichever party comes to the power, can afford to ignore the construction sector where cement plays a vital role. And so whatever be their development agenda, economic agenda, Indian economy will continue to require cement consumption for its growth. So cement industry rides on the Indian economic growth. So that continues. If I continue, let's say, if I see that next 10 years or 20 years, if India has to grow at about 6 to 7%, which is the goal of the Viksit Bharat till 2047. So the Indian cement industry should go by about at least 8%. And that kind of correlation at 1.2 to 1.4 times of the Indian GDP growth, that has been seen over last 20 years, 10 years, longer periods. There have been some years of aberration, let us say when demonetization came, when COVID came, this correlations will get disturbed, but over the long period, this CAGR has percolated. So this 8% CAGR growth continues to be, I think, the forecast of the industry, and that is leading all the leading players to add capacities. So we do see that the Indian industry will continue to grow, and Dalmia is the fourth largest player in the country in the cement industry. After, of course, UltraTech is number one. Number two is Adani, which comprises of Ambuja and ACC brands. And third is Shri, and we are the fourth one. Currently, our capacity is about 50 million tons. And this is against a backdrop of a total about 700 tons overall industry capacity. And we have about 15 plants, mainly operating from south, east, northeast, and west regions. And we serve 23 states customers in 33 states in these four regions, and apart from that also in central region, which is Madhya Pradesh and UP. So, and we are one of the fastest growing cement companies if I see last 10-15 years. In fact, when I joined this company in 2011, we were about 9 million tons capacity player, and today we are at 50 million tons. So we are proud to and continue in this journey. As I just narrated in the last question, the Indian cement industry is beset with the low capacity utilization. So low capacity utilization over prolonged period leads to pressure on them, competitive pressures come, and that leads to the fall in prices, because everybody tries to see that how to gain volume by using the marginal costing principle, that even if I get positive contribution, I'll sell more. So they try to undercut and try to sell. So the pricing discipline is one of the key headwind because of the low capacity utilization. Also, to give you some data points, over last 15 years, the cement prices in India have grown only at a CAGR rate of 2.1%. If I take last 10 years, this rate drops to 0.5%. If I take last 5 years, it is about just 0.8%. So compare this to the general inflation in the economy, which has been hovering around 5-6%, which has come down to about 4% now. So the cement prices have not improved significantly. That is primarily because of the low capacity utilization. So that is the biggest headwind we have to face. And in terms of tailwinds, if I see the Indian economic growth plus whatever development agenda is there of the government, which is infrastructure-led, that is a clear-cut tailwind, because that shows that the volume growth in the industry is continuing to go healthy. And in spite of the geopolitical uncertainties, India continues to grow respectfully. So this is one clear tailwind. And over the years, we have seen that in Indian cement industry, we are having consolidation. The bigger players are taking over the smaller players. So this consolidation is likely to yield better pricing power. So which was a headwind earlier, hopefully going forward will become a tailwind because of the higher consolidation. See, as we have seen over the last so many years, because of the excess capacity and low capacity utilization, the pricing power has not been with the industry. So the only lever where people have been able to survive and grow is the keeping the costs low. So all the players have been able to cut down the cost in spite of the inflation, in spite of the energy prices going up, diesel prices going up. People have been able to keep their cost stable or even lower. Of course, that has required some additional capexes also, but that has been able to keep the industry at a respectable, not respectable, but at least decent margins where you are able to survive and you don't get a very respectable ROCE, return on capital employed, but little bigger players who are not having higher debt, they're able to float through. So cost definitely remains a key focus on the industry, and we are proud that we are one of the lowest cost players in the industry. And going forward also, I don't think the cost is going to lose focus, because whenever the prices are low, your cost leadership is going to determine that you're going to be the last man player. So the smaller players, over the years, we have seen that many companies have exited and got bought over by the bigger players because they were not able to deepen their cost journey and cost leadership. So all serious players, I think they are definitely focused on the cost players, and that is the management philosophy in the company also, that cost leadership we have to further deepen. In the last couple of years, we have been a decentralized finance function, which of course had limited potential in terms of scalability. So over the last few years, our focus has been to make the processes more standardized, digitized, as well as scalable, so that any function can be done, let's say, centrally. So the entire finance team, be it, let's say, treasury, tax, bill passing, or sales accounting, all this, we are trying to see that central team is able to monitor it and give service to all the plants, 15 plants, and all the sales offices. So this will help that as and when we keep increasing, because we have ambition to grow from, let's say, about 50 million ton capacity now to about 75 million in 3 years. So we'll need to keep adding more and more plants and add more territories. So that scalability is possible only when you have standardized and digitized processes. So that is the key theme we are moving towards that. And we don't intend to add any manpower from now when we increase our capacity by 50% over the next 3 years. And the existing manpower will be able to take hold of entire workload. Digitization is, I think, very, very important lever for our finance function journey in the last couple of years and going forward also. So if I see that all our 100% of sales collections, they get entered into SAP the moment they get collected in the bank account. So there's a direct connectivity that moment money comes in the bank account, it gets entry into the SAP ledger so that his credit limit gets released and dispatch can follow. Likewise, all payments to all vendors across the group, they are through host-to-host payment services directly from SAP. We are able to transfer with no manual intervention. So besides that, we are also now implemented SAP RISE, and recently we have gone live for our vendor invoice processing system so that all vendor invoices are processed in a standardized manner centrally. We have also just gone live on the costing module, so that all across 15 plants cannot follow a different costing methodology through Excel, and everything will be governed by SAP. And before the end of the year, we have planned to use SAP RISE again for consolidation of all the balance sheets of the subsidiary companies. And we have 30 subsidiaries currently. And currently it is being done through eMerge, which will all get done through SAP RISE itself. So besides that, we have a live system where we are able to check the GST compliances of our vendors. We are able to download the data of GST compliances from the government portal, and whenever we pass the bill, if any GST non-compliance is there, so their GST gets withheld. The moment they do compliance, then their money gets released. Otherwise, these used to have a very, very tedious process of manual controlling, which has all become automated. And we are also able to follow this GST returns, etc., or TDS returns, all are passed through directly from SAP. So again, no manual interventions involved. And we also have multiple apps for our dealers, for our sales force, sales team, and then transporters. So through these apps, the dealers are able to place orders, they're able to see what is the credit limit, they're able to see the delivery status, they're able to see their statement of account, raise any queries, and whatever compliances are required for GST credit notes, etc., they can do from system itself. So this helps to ensure that they get a very delightful experience, better than the competition. And so this journey, I think going forward, we're ensuring that all functions we're able to follow digitization, and ultimately it helps finance function to ensure that all the manual controls get moved to the system controls. That makes our life easier, that makes the life of all the business leaders easier. See, first of all, we want to have one version of truth, because if people have multiple data points, naturally there'll be chaos, there'll be confusion, there'll be reconciliations. So to ensure that we have one version of truth in the company, so entire data from SAP is the Bible for any data. So from SAP, all data gets downloaded to data lake on daily basis, where the parameters, whatever we want to track, all KPIs under various functions. So that data gets collated. And then we use Power BI to collate all this data, and then we give through visuals and dashboards or MIs to all the leaders as well as the key functions where they have to take decisions. So this ensures that everybody is talking on the same data point and then take the same decisions based on the single source of truth. And besides that, we use our own system where we have a sales and operation planning. And in that, we give the data of about plant capacities, what cost is required to be incurred to deliver material from that plant to the nearest or the target markets. Whatever constant, because there will be multiple constants. Some plant may have, or some state may have some incentives, or some may have some different cost sheet. So all these data points are fed into the system. And then we're able to come out with like a operations research model. What material is to be sold from which plant to which market, so that we are able to optimize the cost and get the maximum margin. And this can be rerun whenever any significant changes there in the assumptions or in the constraints. So this helps to ensure that we are able to take timely decisions and right decisions for the profitability of the company. So in our company, the fundamental belief is that green is profitable and sustainable. So in spite of being a hard to abate sector, we have set a target that we'll be carbon negative by 2040. And in our investor deck, which is published, we give a clear roadmap that where we are currently and where we'll be 5 years hence, well, let's say 2030, 35 and 40 to reach carbon negative. So just to give a data point about carbon emissions, which is a key parameter which cement industry tracks. So our carbon emissions are 456 kg CO2 per ton of cement. And to give a relative context, globally, this average is upwards of 600. And Indian industry also averages about 550. And we are one of the lowest carbon emission producing country, cement company in the country. And of course, this is dovetailed into the targets which are given to the business team. So whether it's sales team or whether it is a merchant team, they have a clear target to increase our e-power, renewable energy power mix. They have a clear target to increase the alternate fuels consumption so that we are able to replace the fossil fuel consumption. The sales team has clear target to increase the cement to clinker ratio. So as you increase cement to clinker ratio, clinker consumption goes down, and clinker is the largest carbon emission product. So that helps to keep the emissions under check and also reduces cost and improves the profitability. So I think ESG is one of the key fundamental points, and we are proud that in spite of being the hard to abate sector, we have got a combined ESG rating from ICRA of score is 80, which comes in the exceptional category. So very few companies which are into hard to abate sector are able to get this kind of rating. See, we track ESG risks as part of the enterprise risk management. And every 6 months, all the ESG risk related things are reported to the risk management committee of the board. And every quarter, when we have the investor deck released to the media, as well as whenever we have the investor call, the key ESG parameters are disclosed there. including what is our carbon emission, including what is our CC ratio or what blended cement sales ratio. So all these are explained. And also at year end, of course, everybody like larger companies have to report BRSR report and the annual report, and that all the metric which you track there get tracked throughout the year. So it is not that at year end you are collating and just to give the data, but all these are part of the KPIs of the people, KRAs of the people, and they are tracked throughout the year. So that at year end that becomes very smooth. So it's a very, very transparent and very focused approach on measuring and tracking all ESG parameters and disclosing to the external world. So we do understand that cement is a cyclical business. So because of the business risks it entails due to cyclicality, we ensure that the financial risks are kept low. And we were one of the first companies in the country to announce a capital allocation policy. So as part of capital allocation policy, we clearly mentioned that our net debt to EBITDA will not cross 2:1. So that ensures that financial discipline will always be kept while taking any capex decisions or any kind of decisions. So besides this, we have also followed over, I think, last 10-15 years, a long tenure debt approach. So all our loans invariably we take for 15 years with average maturity of 10 to 11 years. So this ensures that our debt repayment is always very low. So even if we have 1 or 2 years of bad patches, price cutting, etc., margins go down, we're under never any pressure to have any kind of solvency risk or any kind of repayment risk. So our credit rating has not gone down even during bad cycles. And this also gives us advantage because bulk of our financing is from banks. So in spite of long tenure debt, we are not set with higher debt because whenever we want, we can prepay. Our loan covenants have that flexibility that every interest reset whenever it happens, which is either monthly or quarterly. So we have a choice to prepay any loan without any penalty. So this gives us complete freedom to have flexibility of low repayment, but whenever we want, we can prepay the loan through our extra cash accruals because real paybacks are faster than the loan which we take for 15 years. Besides that, on the debt side, we have the forest risk management policy where we ensure that 100% of the risks are managed or are hedged so that we don't take any undue forest risk. We also ensure that we have adequate liquidity so that at least next 1 to 2 years, in fact, actual liquidity is even higher than this, that next 1 to 2 years debt repayment is covered by liquidity. So even if we have zero EBITDA in any year, we have no repayment risk because we have liquidity lying in the balance sheet. And entire this liquidity is kept in a very conservative board managed treasury policy, which mandates that 80%, at least 80% of the investments are held in AAA debt paper, and not more than 20% or less than 20%, actually it is around 10%, is invested into AA plus paper. So it is a very, very safe policy, and of course the financial risk is kept low, knowing very well that we are into cyclical industry, which business cycles will be up and down. So when we see of raw material, let's say the key raw material of slag and fly ash, we try to ensure that we have long-term contracts so that volatilities or raw material pricing doesn't disturb the apple cart, and of course we have raw material security. And in terms of other raw material, which is the limestone, which of course we do our own mining. So that security is ensured through strategic location where we keep the clinker plants. So those locations are taken very wisely or very strategically so that we are closer to the market. Actually, cost to deliver the cement should be lowest. So that criteria is kept. And we try to ensure that at least all locations where we have at least 25 years plus of limestone security in terms of mining or resources, etc. Coming to the power and fuel, say fuel, because we can interchangeably use either coal or petcoke. So initially we had challenges, lots of, let's say 10 years back, where you could use only coal and had difficulty in using petcoke beyond a point. But we changed our kilns across the company that it had multi-fuel capability. So depending on whichever fuel is cheaper, be it petcoke or coal, you can use any fuel. So this gives us flexibility. Whatever is cheapest in the market, you can procure. And of course, the target is to maximize the alternate fuels so that the reliance on the consumption goes down. And for petcoke also, we have long-term contracts with the Indian refineries. and which ensures availability of supplies, but no refinery is willing to give a fixed price contracts, because that globally is the norm, that nobody wants to lock in the price, because that gives the temptation to one party to default, because the prices are so fluctuating. But at least long-term contracts ensures that availability of petcoke is available for our requirements. Besides this, rest of on the power side, we of course keep benchmarking our CPP power cost, grid power cost, renewable power cost. So depending upon which is cheapest, we buy that, and of course we keep investing into renewable power capacity. And renewable power capacity also, we have both models, capex as well as opex, depending on where you get the maximum return on capital employed. And also in terms of incremental capital employed, because it is not fair to compare the only ROCE for comparing the two, capex versus opex. And besides this, rest of the procurement happens either through annual rate contracts or through auctions, so that we get the competitive cost. And when it comes to logistics, again, we have multiple strategies to ensure that we have serviceability as well as the low cost. So we have dedicated fleet wherever there is a constant running of the vehicles and constant requirement of dispatches. Besides that, we use the auction system to ensure that the costs are optimized. And we also try to see that our direct dispatches from plant to the customer get maximized, because whenever you route the material through depots, the costs go up because of the multiple handling and rehandling. And of course, in all these procurement, we ensure that the partnership with the vendors or transporter is supreme, because we are not a single day player. Ultimately, long-term partnerships are nurtured. And logistics, we also ensure that the primary purpose is never lost in terms of cost optimization. The primary purpose is to serve the sales team and to serve the sales customers, so that the optimization of cost doesn't hamper the sales volume or the satisfaction level of the customer. So with that, I think the journey has been quite good. This is an interesting area, because now the younger generation which has come, they have huge potential, and as well as different mindsets where we need to learn from them. So one thing which of course I have experienced myself in my journey, and I tell my team members also, that don't depend on what role is given to you. So please create your own role. And they are more than welcoming, because they want to try new things, they want to use technology, they want to get more and more experience of multiple areas, get a holistic perspective of the organization. So what I felt, that with some bit of mentoring, I think young talent can be easily nurtured. And we also face the challenges of some people that trying to resist use of technology, because they feel that loss of job may happen. But I think the adequate messages has been there, and they also realized that ultimately the persons who will not imbibe technology will be at a greater risk and of obsolescence, rather than person who will be able to use technology. So we encourage innovation, we encourage empowerment and use of their discretion. And I think people like this quite much, because ultimately they want enrichment of role rather than monotony of data processing. See, the CFO as well as the finance team, I think they play a very, very important role in ensuring success of the business, which of course I'll measure by how your revenue has grown, how your profitability has grown. So compliance part, reporting part, I think that is the given thing that has to be there. No compromise on that. But how you're able to benchmark with the competition, how you're able to get insights from investors, rating agencies, lenders, what is required to be improved in the organization, so that they are able to give you better value. So conveying that and translating it into what is required to be done by the business team in terms of in their areas and their KPIs, tracking that and discovering what are the areas of improvement and partnering with the business team. That is one of the key areas where finance has to play a role. And not only this, I think, be it M&A, be it capital allocation, be it business strategy, all these are important areas where value creation is involved, and finance is a central player in all these areas.